Monty Howard II. I am a senior mass communication major here at Lane College, and today I will be interviewing current SEC Network broadcaster Mr. Will Kohlmeyer. How you doing, Mr. Kohlmeyer?
Hey, I am so sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, sir. It's fine. I got my phone propped up here, and I'm ready for the interview. It's okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I need to. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Do I need to put my? I better put my tie and make it look better. Then. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
All right. There we go. You're looking all sporty.
Trying to get like you, sir.
Hey, it's all about perception. You'll understand that. You at least got the goods. I got to try to fake it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So we're gonna kick things off with. Can you describe your early life and your childhood for me?
Yeah, sure. Grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. Grew up in a very close-knit Christian home. Loved sports. Loved everything about the house. Had a good brother and sister and mom and dad, and so played sports all the time. And a lot of times when I wasn't playing sports, I was playing a pickup game, wiffle ball or whatever, or basketball, football, and I was always announcing. So I knew at an early age that sportscasting was definitely going to be in my future.
Who would you say was your biggest influence as far as sportscasting goes?
Well, there was a guy that I grew up in my hometown of Madison. You probably won't have heard of him before. His name is Gary Bender. Your dad would probably would remember him. He did a lot of the Final Fours, like in the 80s, with Akeem Olajuwon, the Dream Team, all that back then. And I liked his style because he wasn't very flashy. He was steady. He was not the story. He made sure the players and the coaches were the story, and he was just kind of the guy that transmitted the message of what was going on. And I kind of like that style, and that's to this day. I still, when I call a game, I try to remember and try to make Gary Bender proud because that we aren't the story. The announcers. There's so many of these days that want to be the story, and they're not. So he would probably be my first big mentor. And in fact, one day I was covering the SEC basketball tournament. It was probably in the mid 80s. It was probably late 80s up at Thompson Bowling in Knoxville, Thompson Bowling Arena. And I got a chance to introduce myself to him and tell him what he meant to me growing up. So that was a big thrill for me to be able to.
Yes, sir. As far as your educational experience, where did you attend college?
Yes, well, a lot of my friends growing up in Madison, Wisconsin, a lot of them just stayed there in town and went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. But I did my research, and I wouldn't have been able to touch the equipment till my senior year if I was fortunate. I mean, there's 45, 50,000 plus students, and so you were just a number at the University of Wisconsin. So I went to a smaller school. It's part of the University of Wisconsin system. It's University of Wisconsin-Platteville. It was like 9,000 students, and I got a chance right off the bat my freshman year. I could try out, and I was very thankful that I was able to start doing radio. In fact, I did my first college football call. It was a D3 game, and I was only 17 years old. So I thought it was a big blessing, and it gave me a taste for something that I wouldn't have been able to even think about if I went to a bigger school like the University of Wisconsin there in my hometown.
Yes, sir. To piggyback off of that, would you say that it requires, to be a sportscaster, broadcaster, or announcer, do you believe it requires hands-on experience, or are there other methods, or would you say that's the best method?
Yeah, I think so. In fact, I've done a lot of talking through the years, Vonnie, to not only high school, but college students as well. And nothing against grades. I mean, I wanted to try to get A's and B's myself, but I knew that experience would get me further, no D's, but I mean, if you give it your best effort and if you get B's, that's fine as long as you're getting experience. And that was one thing that I was covering high school football games and basketball games every Friday night, and I was doing games for the college on the college radio station and TV station on Saturdays. So I really didn't have much of a social life in college. And I was thinking back, man, I wish I would have had a little something, would have been able to. That was just a pit stop. I mean, the Lord gave me that gift at a young age. I got a tape recorder when I was in 4th grade for Christmas. Okay. And from then on, I was recording games. I turned the volume down on the TV, and I was calling games. And so I knew that would be my future. So that's why I did. And so I always tell them, I mean, that internship is huge. Try to get as much experience. And you need to go to a school that can give you that opportunity. Have a campus radio station. Have a campus TV station. Because then there's so many people, Vonnie, going for so few jobs. I mean, look at me. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. I didn't even ever think that I would even visit Mississippi, much less live my whole adult life in Mississippi. But you got to go sometimes where where the jobs are open, and there's no way I would have even gotten a sniff at a TV station down south if I didn't have, work hard in college and build that resume and pad that resume, if you will.
Yes, sir.
To get opportunity.
Okay. Let me see. Another. Here's a what if. If you could go back and do anything over again, would you, and why?
It's a good question. You know, I talked about it earlier. Came from a really close-knit Christian home, and so I gave it to the Lord. Obviously, I wanted to stay close to home, and growing up, you know, I always wanted to do D1 play-by-play, but I thought it was always going to be for the Badgers. You know, if I could just cover the Packers or the Brewers or the Bucks, you know. Worked for the Milwaukee Bucks growing up in their summer camps, and so I was that had been so cool. But obviously, my plan and the Lord's plan, you know, sometimes they walk hand in hand, and then sometimes they're just like, totally. And so I knew that, you know, I kind of wondered about that, and I went for jobs. I interviewed for jobs in Milwaukee and Indianapolis and Madison and all these places, Green Bay, and I came so close, but I was like trying to figure out, well, how come I'm not? I mean, I've got the experience. I've done this, I've done that. And obviously it wasn't part of the Lord's plan. So I really, when you look back and regret, I guess the only thing, if you're looking for regret, is when I got out of TV, I had to give up my Heisman vote, and I had to give up my Wooden Award vote because I wasn't covering them on the full-time basis. But when it comes to broadcasting, no, I haven't had any regrets, because if I would have done what I wanted to do and be there in my hometown of Madison and covering the Badgers and calling games for the Badgers, I wouldn't have met my wife, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be a dad to my son, who is now 16, Collins. So there are blessings everywhere, and I don't look back and try to have any regrets, Vonnie.
I understand that. I feel like whatever's meant for you in life is meant for you. So anything that's forced or it doesn't feel like it has that easy transition, maybe it's not meant for you. I feel like God has something that's available for everyone, and you'll have that feeling, you'll know. So
absolutely, he provides that peace. That's where the Holy Spirit. And one time I've taken a job, Vonnie, one time that I didn't have that peace, and it was the worst job. It was the longest year of my life. So we have to just rely on that peace, and he'll make it abundantly clear. I always pray for neon. That's what I mean, I don't ask for, I said, Lord, just make it, throw a brick at me, do whatever to get my attention, make sure I follow his path.
Yes, sir. Let me see. Another question. What was your first broadcasting or sportscasting job, and what is your most memorable moment from that?
Well, my first one, I guess, I know that growing up, I reached out to the University of Wisconsin, and I told them, I said, hey, I'm going to be a play-by-play guy one day. And so they gave me an opportunity to record a Wisconsin DePaul game back then. And DePaul had a couple guys that went on to play in the NBA. So that was pretty cool. They put me right next to WGN TV because they were calling, of course, back then, Vonnie, they called all the Cub games. They called DePaul and basketball, and they did a lot of the White Sox games as well. Now WGN, one of the super stations, just shows movies. But it was really a big thing. So I was able to sit right next on on the press row there where Wisconsin plays their basketball games. And so I was able to watch them do their thing. And that was pretty cool. I know that wasn't an official broadcast. I guess my first time I was actually on the air was my freshman year in college when I was doing some sportscasts at the campus radio station. And then I was doing some TV work that afternoon on the campus TV station doing sports. So I just knew that I remember best the memorable part of it is the rush, is that, and it's the enjoyment. I mean, the adrenaline is incredible. Nothing like live anything with in sports. I guess if you're a newscaster, you have that same rush. Maybe even meteorologists have that same rush. But there was something about that, how magical that was. And still to this day, I mean, when I'm calling a game, whether it's on the SEC network or I'm doing some Sunbelt football on ESPN Plus or whatever, I'm your age.
I understand.
And I'm telling you, you can ask your dad, you can talk to your professional, anybody. It's pretty rare that you can turn the clock back. Mm-hmm. So for me, in my upper 50s, and I can be back in my 20s for those 3-4 hours. I mean, you talk about blessing.
Yes, sir.
Unbelievable. But that's the key, and that's what I tell my son all the time. If you find something that you're passionate about, and that doesn't matter what you make. I mean, my dad asked me several times. I mean, he called, and nothing against anybody that's flipping burgers at McDonald's, but he said, Will, you're making $180 a week being a sports director at an NBC affiliate, and you're working 60 plus hours. I mean, you're barely making $3 an hour. People flipping burgers are making twice what you're making. And I said, yeah, Dad, but this is what I love to do.
Right.
I think he understood that, and he never did ask me again because he knew it was a passion. In fact, you even see it on my social media posts. A lot of times when I'm getting ready, excited about calling the game coming up, and I always put hashtag pursue your passion.
Right.
Put that on LinkedIn a lot as well, because you have to pursue your passion. If something you're passionate about, it doesn't matter how long the days are. It doesn't matter if it's a doubleheader. It doesn't matter if you have to do 3 broadcasts in one day. I remember a couple years ago, I had one day I had Ole Miss volleyball against Tennessee. Then I had the Ole Miss men and women's basketball season openers. They were back to back game at the pavilion, and college age kids were worn out and they're like, I can't do another game. And I was like, after the 3rd game, I said, let's go. Can we get another couple more games in today? Something that you love to do. I'm telling you, that's the secret, Bonnie.
Anytime you have passion about your job, it's no longer a job. It's something that you wake up, you can jump out of bed and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get this done today because this is something that's in my heart that I want to do. So anytime you have a passionate job, you're definitely winning in life, sir.
There's no question about that. I always call it a hobby that pays.
I gotta take that one down.
Yeah.
My last question would be, do you have any advice for anyone pursuing broadcasting, announcing, sportscasting, or anything within the media umbrella? What would you give to anyone at this moment?
I think you have to be realistic. If you're talking about advice, I mean, just give me, just as an example, I mean, growing up in Madison, Wisconsin, all my friends, all my family, everybody's up there, and you have to make some sacrifices. There are a lot of things I missed in my life because I was calling games or I was on the air. It was a ratings month in television where, in November and February and May, I mean, you got to be basically on your deathbed for you to get off those nights. So I missed some family functions that I wish I could have been to. So just understand going in that there are sacrifices. Mm-hmm. There are long hours. The pay is not that good. But if you're willing to do all of that and you're willing to accept that, kind of like what we talked about before, it's something that you love. It's like you said, when you wake up in the morning, hey, this is what I get to do today. Thank you, Lord. Right. Then that really it shouldn't matter if you're in it for the right reasons. And so that would be just going into it, know that you're not going to be making $1 million a year. You're not going to be making what Al Michaels makes doing Sunday Night Football on NBC. You're not going to make what some of these anchors make on ESPN or whatever. And the percentage is almost like people that are athletes like yourself and thinking about, man, wouldn't that be great play in the NFL one day. I know you're still starring, and I see video, and you do such a good job on that. And it probably was a dream, maybe of yours, a pipe dream, to play in the NFL one day or play in the NBA. There's so few of them that actually make that. Don't, and that's another thing, don't compare yourself when you're in it to someone else. Gosh, I can't wait 5 or 6 years from now, and you're wishing away your life, and then really don't enjoy the journey because you're not enjoying those games that you're covering. It's like I remember when I covered Mississippi State when they went to the Final Four in 1996, and the coach was telling me throughout that, he's like, it's just a whirlwind. I think I'm trying to advance to the next weekend, and I'm not enjoying the journey. I'm not enjoying the process. So for sportscasters or whatever you want to do in the media, just be sure to embrace the journey. Don't question everything. Just enjoy it. And yes, you will have some long hours. It's going to be tough on a social life, but if you really love what you're doing, it doesn't really seem like a big deal. So that would be my advice.
Yes, sir. Well, I thank you. I know that you have a very busy schedule. I know that you have a lot of things that you do on a daily basis, and for you to take the time to help me conduct this interview and help me with my assignment, I truly appreciate you, Mr. Kohlmeyer. I want to say that we will continue to talk. I've expressed interest to you in various different formats, so I want to thank you again for the interview. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, and you have helped me tremendously in more areas than you think.
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot. It really does. And you're so welcome. And yes, I think a lot of you. So you stay in touch.
Yes, sir.
And happy to help in any way.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
again for letting me be a part of this project.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. You have a great one.
You too.